Okay, so I'm on the 2015 Ducati Multistrada. This is their 1200cc adventure bike. It's probably the most sort of road-focused adventure bike. Certainly one of the most sporty adventure bikes you can get. Certainly this and the Aprilia, really. It's amazingly comfortable. For a big V-twin, the fueling's actually pretty decent. The screen's a decent height, so there's very little buffeting. It's really comfortable for just cruising along at sort of motorway speeds like this. But it's got 160 horsepower and only weighs about sort of 200 kilos, so it's quick, like properly quick, like sport bike fast. I still find it a little bit strange trying to ride this thing like a sport bike. Bikes of this sort of geometry, being this high up, it just doesn't really feel right to me. Sort of riding these things like a sport bike, but you can. I mean, I've seen people, you know, riding these things, scraping their knees and foot pegs and stuff all over the place. So you can ride this thing like a sport bike. It just feels a little bit strange for me, being this high up and this sort of upright. Right now we're in sport mode. This has a few different riding modes, and to scroll through them, you can just push this button up here. You've got sport, touring, enduro, and urban. Urban and enduro cut the power down, make everything a little bit softer and a little bit more easy to modulate. Sport and touring both have the same power, but sport's a little bit more of everything, so it's a little bit more aggressive on the throttle. Traction control gives you a little bit more slip, I think. Touring's probably the best compromise for sort of overall road use, but keep it in sport mode today, I think. It's actually perfectly rideable in sport mode, even though I say it's more aggressive. You can see it's not lurchy or jumpy at all. It's actually, the fueling's actually pretty good, but it does mean when you crack the throttle open, you do get a little bit more lairiness, which is always nice. Oh, it's got the anti-wheelie in this as well, which works really well. You can actually set the angle. At the moment we're set on sort of 2, which means you'll get the front end will hover up a little bit, but you can keep the throttle absolutely pinned and it won't go any further than about, you know, 1.5 foot off the ground, which is great if you're a bit scared of wheelies. It just makes it easy. And you can actually set the angle, so you could literally set the wheelie angle to like 10, 11 o'clock if you want, and it will just hold it there and won't go any further with the throttle pin, which is cool. I like that. Unlike some other Ducatis as well, it doesn't sound too shouty and like clanky and noisy at lower revs. It sounds a little bit more refined. You still get that nice sort of bark at lower revs, at high revs, sorry. But yeah, it's a little bit less shouty than some other Ducatis I've ridden, which I think probably suits a bike like this a little bit more, where this bike has that sort of bit of duality where, you know, you don't always want it to be like leery and shouty. You kind of want it to be comfortable and smooth, but just riding like this, you know. But it does mean that when you do get to a nice little bit of road and you want to crack the throttle, you still get all the usual exciting Ducati stuff. 160 horsepower on an adventure bike, yeah, I mean it's pretty insane. Oh, look at that lovely old Land Rover, it's gorgeous. I mean, despite its size, it doesn't actually feel that big when you're on the street. Like through these twisty little lanes, it just feels like a slightly large supermoto, but a lot more comfortable than a supermoto. Okay, so right now I'm in sport mode, but we're not really doing any sporty stuff at the moment. So I'm just going to switch it into touring mode. And you just push this button, select touring, hold that down for a few seconds, and it'll say close gas, and there you go, we're in touring. All that means now is that we've got it's just a little bit less aggressive now, basically, which when you're on a road like this just cruising along, that's kind of what you want, but you still get the full power, which is nice. So this isn't the S model. There is the S model of this, which has all the fancy electronic adjustable suspension. This just has the say standard, it's still pretty decent suspension, the standard sort of Shure suspension I think it is, rather than the Öhlins. But yeah, it feels perfectly fine to me. It feels really compliant. When you stick it into a corner, it stays flat through the corner. You do get a bit more dive under brakes compared to sort of ordinary street bikes, just because of how high up you are and the extra sort of stroke of the suspension, and because it's basically got like superbike brakes on this thing. So the brakes, you have to be a little bit careful about how you use them, in the sense that they bite very quickly, just like a sport bike would, but there's a lot more dive. So it's not a problem. You just have to be a bit aware if you're riding it like a sport bike and you brake very heavy into the corner, or you're trail braking a little bit, then you are going to get a little bit more movement from the front just because of the suspension diving. But like I said, it's not a problem, and the bike's chassis and suspension do a really good job of stopping it squirming around. What is this guy doing? Oh, he's pulling over. Sweet. Thank you. I don't know if he's pulling over because of me, but it's nice. Got the whole road ahead of us now, completely clear. So yeah, in touring mode, it's nice. It's really easy to modulate the throttle. I'm not like on and off, constantly doing little adjustments. You can just hold it in one position and ride, which is what you want really. This does have heated grips as well, although I reckon that heated gloves are probably better. So it's got everything you want from a good touring bike really. This screen is adjustable, as you can see, on the fly. You can just move up and down. It's a simple little latch there. It's really nice and simple, I like that. All the wind protection's really good actually. Very little wind coming through, no buffeting. Nice wide bars. It's not too sort of close and far forward like it is with the Hyperstrada. It's actually a nice neutral position. Feels spot on actually. And despite how high this bike is, you can actually get your feet flat on the floor, or near enough flat on the floor, and I'm only about 5'10", so that makes it a little bit easier to manage, and slightly shorter people will find it a little less intimidating as well, because when you sit on it, I mean, it does feel quite big just because of the size of the tank. It looks quite big, but it doesn't feel that big. It's very light. Yeah, it just deals with those big holes in the road really well. Right, let's see how this thing does. Terrific. See, a lot of dive there at the brakes, but it's right, it's controllable. Jesus, you forget how fast this thing is, really. I mean, honestly, it's superbike fast, near enough. I mean, not quite as fast as a modern superbike, but it's as fast as a superbike was like 10 years ago. But it's comfy, and you can carry lots of stuff and people and things like that. It's great. Again, it's just a quick test really, not really a fully comprehensive one, but I hope at least you get a little bit of an idea of what it's like to just cruise along on this thing and what it's like to gas it a little bit. But yeah, that's it. 2015 Multistrada. Very, very cool bike. This is the sort of bike that I would quite happily ride every day in all types of scenarios. It's pretty damn impressive, this thing.